What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Malazan server, and today we are taking a step back from doing side projects or other large projects, and we are actually deciding to turn our attention to our base area. And I am hopefully going to be leaving the confines of our hole down there. Everything down there has been pretty much worked on, polished off and sort of ready to go. And up here is a barren wasteland, so what I actually want to do is get the foundation sort of laid out as to where I want buildings, pathways. I think I want a pier over here, then I want a beach area somewhere around there. But all of this stuff needs to sort of be laid out. So what I've got on me is a shulker full of netherrack, and I've also got a bunch of these smooth stones, just so that I can sort of plot out where it is I actually want buildings. Now I've got a bunch of acacia here because I was thinking about doing a completely different build style than what I'd already started on the perimeter wall, like the reinforced wall that goes around the edge. But I actually quite like the acacia, especially with the new lanterns and then the stone bricks. So I think we're going to be staying true to that sort of palette when we start building our actual buildings up here, and then we sort of venture off and try different building styles in different areas. But for this little island that we're on, our main home base, I think I actually like the colour palette of that. I may add another colour or two in with different shades or variants of the oranges, because it does pair well, especially with I didn't plan on having all of these berry bushes, but I actually quite like them outlined in the wall. It adds another little colour and a little bit of texture to the outside. So I'll try to keep something like that incorporated in, and I've got to be careful on the placements of the buildings because I need to make sure that there's enough room to get a little bit of depth and detail into each individual build, as well as try to find a purpose or a use for each of the buildings. Now, my main priority while building is going to be cosmetic up here more than anything else. So functionality wise is sort of second tier to my choices at the moment. Sorry about that. I always like standing inside the beacon because it's like a bit of a trippy effect. It's like wow, wow, and then you look all the way up. So yeah, sidetracked. Very. Yeah. Okay. Carry on. So yeah, I've obviously in a bunch of acacia ready to carry on with today's projects. And what I'll probably do is, rather than you watch me fumble around trying to lay out the pathways and whatnot as to what I want everything, or where I want everything. And as opposed to this, I'm half tempted to cover it up. Now initially I was going to leave it open because I thought, well, looking down here on the slime farm would be nice, but whenever you look down here from anywhere other than standing in the chunk directly, you always get these sort of chunk loading errors, the visual things, so it won't actually load it and you'll get the big dark spots as opposed to what I actually wanted it to look like. Okay, he's changed his skin. I thought he got killed by a space soldier then, but no, that would have been really interesting. Yeah, so if you're standing and looking directly down from here, it's fine. But yeah, as soon as you go up to one of these edges, you get them stupid chunk and it just doesn't look very good. So I will more than likely cover this up, and yeah, you know what, I'm actually just going to do that, and I'll probably just keep a beacon hole. Now, I'm not overly concerned about the slime spawning or blocking the surface spawns, which we are going to be getting on the top platform there, because we've got more than enough slime balls to cover our needs for the time being. And what I may do is just have a little layer just above here, so I'll probably keep the glass and I'll probably just cover the top section off with dirt, just sort of like a cheap cover up deal on this. So that way we've got more room to work with for actual buildings and our pathways up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to work and cover this entire glass roof up. I'm going to obviously leave the spot for the beacon beam to carry on because we still want the haze effect, and then I'll cover it with dirt, and that way we can have a lot more area to play with. And in between this cut and the next one, I am going to get to work on chopping down all of these trees, getting a bunch of resources up here, and laying out where it is I want the buildings and pathways. So let me crack on with that, and I'll catch you back in a bit. Alright then guys, so it's been a good about an hour and a half to 2 hours of me sort of laying the foundations out to what I want where. and honestly it's made the entire project far more approachable than anything else, considering that now it's no longer one very large project, it's now just an absolute bunch of smaller ones. Now if you're watching this, do not expect a transformation completely in this episode. That ain't gonna happen. This is gonna be a sort of, we do it bit by bit sort of project. It's not going to be, oh, let's just get it all done in one hit sort of thing, which is usually my go-to style, because when I start something I really like to get it just done, finished and out of the way with. But this one I definitely want to take my time with because I want to get it right. Now the grey smooth stone blocks are our pathways, and then the red outlines are where I want buildings and the general shape and size of the buildings. By the way, I've done a triangle there. I have absolutely no idea what sort of building you could build in a triangle, but I'm fairly sure if I do build it, it will probably be slightly bigger than that. Now, as opposed to the path is what I actually want to work on right this second with you guys. That's how comes I decided to bring you back now. Let me quickly just give you a rundown of what's going where. Now on this side directly underneath us, as you can see, we've got a curve of netherrack coming in. This is actually going to be our pier, which is where I want that to go. And then we've got a little building on the end. Now I didn't want to push all of the buildings up onto the side. So what I've done is that we've got a curving path coming around and then a straight path going across that hard edge there. Now the reason for that is because I'd like to have like a walkway that you can sort of see the open ocean, rather than all the buildings being butted up directly against the edge, which is probably going to be for the best, considering otherwise all the buildings pushed to the side with just a pathway in the middle wouldn't look too great. And then we've got the pathway sort of curving in now and rejoining and intersecting in different areas. So we've got to come around here, we've got a few buildings spaced in the middle there. And then we got that beach over on the far side is actually going to be left as a beach. Now these pathways are sort of dead ending onto the beach, and that's because I'm hopefully going to be doing some form of a gradient with the pathway, which will make it naturally sort of enter and just sort of fade off into the beach itself, because I want to completely renovate the beach and make it look really, well, really good compared to what it looks like at the moment. Like at the moment you've got a very hard edge over there, which I want to get rid of, smooth off a couple of little other areas, and get rid of our turtle sanctuary, which no longer has turtles in, by the way. That actually, all the turtles disappeared after a hotfix update came out, and I've just really not been bothered, so I'll probably tear that up and get ready to renovate the beach. Then we have got a pathway that goes over there. We've got a nice little building size over that one. That one is for our main entrance down to our sort of storage room and area underneath the ground. So we need to make that one look fairly decent. And that one's already got a use, which is good, which means we don't actually have to find a use. I've also got a tiny little circle building, well, sort of circle type shape around where our beacon beam's going to be coming out. Now, I don't know why you can't see the beacon beam from up here, because we are definitely within render range of it, but yep, apparently that's a thing. So yeah, pathways, this is what we want to work on. And the idea for the pathways is, oh, there's our beacon beam. The idea for the pathway is that our buildings are going to be yep, that's correct, primarily made of stone, and probably I'm thinking terracotta as well, because terracotta, standard terracotta shade is sort of similar to acacia, and we want a lot of oranges and different sort of textures with the greys, to be honest with you, just to sort of match our external perimeter wall. I've been harvesting these trees as and when they grow. They was really getting in the way when I was trying to lay out the sort of shape and sizes of everything. But for our pathways, before I get too sidetracked, because our buildings are going to be sort of darker tones, you've got the hard dark oranges and the hard greys and the sort of very naturistic sort of tones and toned down. How many times am I going to say tones in one sentence? The sort of very sort of earthy colours more than anything else I want to say. So for the pathways, what I want to do is actually make the pathways a much lighter block palette. So we're going to be going for a sort of sandy style pathway. That way it means when we merge the actual pathways onto our beachfront, it will be a lot more natural and look a lot better. This guy. So what we've got here is an absolute bunch of sand, sandstone, a bunch of birch, and then I've also got some yellow terracotta just to see how that looks. And we're just going to do a little segment of our pathway, let's say just this little segment here. And what we're going to want is our pathway to be directly above that. Great, awesome. Probably around about 4, maybe 5 wide. So I've left more than enough room either side of all of the buildings for our pathways to be a fairly decent size. So if we do something like that, and then we're going to need to grab all of this guy back. I did pick up one glass block, and I'm just hoping that it's not going to be one of the pieces I end up walking on, because I ended up having to put the glass block over there to stop me from falling in, but it looks like that we're safe here. So let's grab some of these blocks on us. Let's grab you, and maybe some of you. And then that's sort of one segment there. And then you can do it coming off here. Now the whole point of this sort of pathway is that it's a completely non-uniformed sort of pathway, so we're not going to have hard edges. It's not going to have to be the exact same shape and size on every single angle and turn. So if you had like a very sort of city style build, if my words would actually come out, your pathways are obviously going to have hard edges. They're going to be very uniform. We're going for the complete opposite, so we've got a lot more sort of laxed feel about building this. Now our main building block is probably going to be sand, so if we just start off with a sand layer, so if we just do something like so, and just fill that in just so we've got a base to work with. And then we are going to want, say, some birch, and then gonna want a crafting table down there. I have also got a stone cutter for dealing with the sandstone, and what we're gonna want to do with the sandstone is, say, gonna want some steps, so we want 16 of them. And then what else do we want? Gonna want some steps of the birchwood. Let's just grab 16 of them. And what else? Let's grab some walls as well, just to see if we can't work them into it. We don't want the trapdoors or anything. Maybe some pressure plates, just to see what we can work in here. So what we're also going to, that is not what I wanted to do at all, but yeah, okay. Just so we get some little divots and dents in the place as well. And then we're also going to want, I did have it in my mind what I wanted to do. Half slabs. Is that a thing we could do? Yeah, get some half slabs as well. And let me have a look. So, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The birch logs, what we are going to be doing is actually using these, because these actually have a really nice texture when you strip the logs. And obviously we are going to be sort of busting out chunks here and there. So if we do something like that, a bit of sand, do that, and then we can strip the logs, and it'll give us that sort of contour and sort of contrast with colours. We want to get rid of you, and then we want to do maybe some half slabs, because we're going to want some different height variations as well. So if we do something like that, we just want to make it look really, really random and just non-uniformed in shape and size. Now obviously a lot of this is going to sort of probably change and sort of get adjusted as and when we do the buildings around it, but for now we just want to make a little pathway, make it look very sort of worn, trodden, and just so that it's a lot easier for us. That is the, there we go. That is we're getting there, but I'm not quite happy with it just yet. Now this is a really risky sort of thing to do, but is that a little bit too bold with the terracotta? Throw a few of them in. It's not outlandishly bold, but It's definitely out there, but you know what? I'm just going to wing it. If I don't like the terracotta after I finish doing the pathways, then it's quite easy just to rip out. So I'll just have a few of them there. I think a little bit more of the spruce, not spruce, the birch logs. Because I really do like the sort of contrast that they give. If we do that and that and that. And obviously using the wood half slabs, we can actually hide lighting quite easily underneath the floor here as well. And let's grab some more of these guys. Can I get some more sandstone slabs? Say one like that. Maybe not there exactly. There. And then just get a different little bit of contrast here and there. Instead of it just being solid sand, do some smooth sandstone. That isn't actually looking half bad. I'm still a little bit wary about the terracotta. Can we get some sandstone steps on us? Have a little bit of depth and variation. Like so. And like us. Oh, that works as well, I guess. And then we could even throw in some buttons. As to why not? I'm just getting every single colour or every single block from this sort of palette that I possibly can to see what we can do with it. Yep, that works. Just a little bit of sandy pebbles around. What is that noise? Oh, it's them. Okay, so it looks like it's coming together. I don't know how well it's going to look at the end once we've done all of the pathways, but as for these ones, the little segment, I'm still unsure about that. That's just really, really bold. Thinking. Is there anything else I could do to make adjustments to it? That can come out. That's definitely going to be a wrong block choice for that. Let's break you. Get some sand in there. So you sort of see the style that I'm going for. Now, can we get a bit of an aerial view? It's the whole point that I've put a ladder and a little platform up here. It's just so that I can sort of take a step back and see it from a whole, because when you're standing up close, you're not exactly going to get a picture of what it's going to look like as a whole. And when you're only working on one little segment and adding way too much detail to it, it's hard to take a step back. Now that, from here, as a pathway going throughout the place, I reckon would look pretty good. Even with the yellow terracotta, it's a little bit bold and it does stand out, but it does add a lot more sort of contrast and different types of shades to it. Now, I think that could actually work pretty well, especially against the contrast that we're going to have of the buildings being grey. I think the pathways being like that should actually look fairly decent. I know it's a bit of a mess, my process of doing these things, but what I'm going to do is try my best to work out and actually get the pathways done, just so that we've got an idea of what it's going to look like with the pathways in, or at least get a bit of a segment or a section of them done. And then hopefully before the end of the episode we can actually get to work on one of the buildings. So I'm going to crack on and get a lot of these pathways done with the blocks that I've got on me or in my little trusty shulker box, and I'll bring you back. Alright then guys, so it's actually about 2 days after since that last cut, and I've actually got quite a lot of the pathways fully done and completed now. And you can also probably tell that I've got a bunch more beacon beams and a bunch more effects on the right hand side of my screen there. Now, the day before yesterday, I actually done about another 5 or 6 hours worth of end busting. Got a bunch more loot, bunch more shulker shells, quite a few more elytras, and the main priority of me going over there was to actually get the wither fights done. Now, obviously, I cheesed them using the end portal glitch to sort of trap the wither and get the beacon, so we've got a few for trade now, as well as having an extra 4 over here on our island. So now we've got like the speed 2, what is it? Speed 2, haste 2, strength, jump boost 2, regen and resistance 2 on our island, so it should make building and running around a lot easier. And I love the fact that you can now jump up by 2 blocks. But let me get an aerial view so then you can have a look at our pathways that I actually painstakingly spent hours on trying to get done. I actually had Steak and Noodles come round and drop off a shulker of sands in order for me to be able to finish getting the pathways done. Now, initially I wasn't planning on trying to get all the pathways done and completed. Now, obviously, as I build the buildings in between the pathways themselves are going to be adjusted here, there and everywhere to sort of match the influences of the scale of the buildings that are going to be going in between them. But the way it has come out, I'm pretty happy with it. It's a little bit chaotic, but it sort of matches the sort of theme that I wanted to go for, especially as they transition into the sandy beach area. I think that's pulled off very, very nicely. Now, that hard edge over there, I really want to change soon, because each time I look over there, it just looks wrong, basically. But the pathways themselves, I'm quite happy with. Even with the yellow terracotta, which I was unsure about, I'm quite happy with that. Now, in regards to the buildings that we're going to be putting up, I think we're going to have to sort of try our best not to over detail them too much because of the pathways and how chaotic they are. If we try to over detail the buildings that are going to be here, it's just going to look like an absolute mess. So I think sort of simplistic and uniform design for buildings, not boring. Each one's going to be individual. That's how comes I went for all different shapes and sizes. And as you can see with the triangle one, I have absolutely no idea. Like I said before, it's just just a random shape that I hadn't put down already, and I thought, oh yeah, triangle. But I'm not too sure what this building is going to come out as, or if it's going to remain a triangle. Yeah, but the one that we are going to be working on is this one over here. Actually, before we go on to that, I did actually get a couple of maps out, and then we get a proper overview, because standing up there obviously isn't giving it justice on the sort of layout. But over here, as you can see, like all the buildings are going to be different shapes and sizes. You've got some buildings like this cluster over here, which is one going to be coming off another, which I think is going to be really interesting to work on. Now, the building that I want to work on now is this one up here, which is our main entrance and exit into our sort of main base area with our storage system. So just this section over here, it's an 11 by 13. Now, rather than you have to sort of painfully watch me and are about placing blocks and what blocks to use, I think in order to do this building and in order to make sure that this video doesn't drag on for too long, that it's best off me just cracking on with it and doing a third person time lapse of it, because they're always fun, especially fun for me to record, because that way I don't have to think about talking as well as trying to decide on the block placing and the block palette. I can sort of just crack on, get on with it, and have the camera account up and recording. So yeah, without further ado, here we go. Alright then guys, so hopefully the time lapse has come out alright, and I'm quite happy with the end result of it. Now after time lapse I did go around and I've done a little bit of polishing up. I'm not too sure if I added or just removed the half slabs from above this one, but when I did have half slabs across that pillar that goes across at this level just here, it made the top section look a lot smaller than what it should have done. But yeah, the only other thing I was I wasn't pretty sure about this build on is the roof. Now I've gone for the dark prismarine. It stands out a lot from the build, but I tried every single combination of every block that you could get in stairs and slabs for the roof, and nothing went nearly as well as the dark oak with the prismarine. Now, I know it doesn't blend in with the rest of the actual build, but I think that's a good thing more than anything else. And if you're wondering how comes I've gone with orange terracotta instead of the stripped acacia logs, like I have down below, and that is because up close with the acacia logs, when they're down in the water, it looks perfectly fine because it looks like they're a little bit weathered, a little bit worn. But if you look at them up close, they tend to have a bit of a pinkish tinge to them when you're pretty much up close, and having it going all the way around, especially when you're inside this room. Initially when I had it done, it didn't look overly great, so I swapped it out for orange terracotta, and I'm quite happy that I did now because I actually quite like the look of it. There's a couple of little things that I wasn't too sure about. One is the orange terracotta was only meant to really be an accent block, so it wasn't meant to be one of our main colours. But it sort of worked out that it is and it isn't. I've managed to obscure the vision of most of it on the outside. Now I'm using spruce leaves instead of any others because spruce leaves actually match really well with the dark prismarine. And if we get a little bit of light to go around this place. So yeah, as for decorations around the outside, I've sort of grown the vegetation out a bit. I've got a little bit of mini spruce trees with just the dark oak fences and sort of flower pots going around the edge. I'm not too sure when it comes to small decoration pieces like that. And there's another thing that I was really unsure about is this pathway that leads onto our main path. I wasn't too sure how to do that, what to build it out of, if I should cut it off over here and have a separate dividing path that comes from the building to here. Because the building is like an open plan building, it's just going to be one that we come in and out of. There is room to do something upstairs, but very, very little room, so I wasn't really bothered by that. But as opposed to the build itself, I'm quite happy the way that it's come out. Now, with the build itself, I actually did mock one up in my test build. What is angry with me? I can hear something. I think it's a llama down there. Yeah, I did mock it up in my test build, and it took me quite a while to try to find a shape of a building that I liked and to be able to include enough detail without going overboard on it. Now, with the stairs going up and down in the wall actually adds quite a lot of depth to a building that you can't fit a lot of layers in because it's only 11 by 13 plot size, and the outer layer is just taken up by these columns alone. So on the inside, I think it worked out as, I think it's like 9 by 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 by 9 on the inside. So I didn't really have a great amount of room to play around with to get the sort of depth and details, but I think that's worked out in our favour because obviously we don't want it to be over detailed. Now with the roof design, I've gone for, and it's raining, I've gone for a little bit of, I'm not sure if it's Japanese or Chinese, I do apologise, but I'm not too sure what style it is. I'm fairly sure it's Japanese style roofing. They're temples that sort of come down at a gradient and then they sort of fan out, it's going sideways like horizontal, and then you've got little points at either end, and I think it really works well for that build. So yeah, all in all, I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite happy with the progress that we've made today. Now, going forward, future episodes, I'm not going to be dedicating, I may dedicate 1 or 2 episodes on doing big parts of this area, like mainly probably the dock area or renovating the beach or one of these main buildings, probably, I'm not too sure. But as opposed for all the other buildings, what I'll probably end up doing is throwing in time lapses in the middle of my episodes of me just throwing up one of these buildings, because obviously I'm going to be using the same block palette, but I'm going to want in, yeah, that sounds correct. I'm going to want to make every build individual to itself rather than following the exact same style and pattern that I've done for this one. So to add a lot of variation, but the block palette itself is going to be very, very similar. It's very same block palette for the roofing that I reckon I'm going to end up using for most of them. But the build style itself will probably vary quite a lot, especially considering that a lot of the building shapes and sizes are completely different from that one. So it's going to be adventurous for me, and it's going to be a way for me to practice my cosmetic side of things more than technical. But yeah, for today's episode, unfortunately, I think that we have well and truly run over our allowed time for how long you guys can put up with me talking for. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'll hopefully catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.